and each light represents a listener and a subscriber. Okay, everybody, this is going to be a walkthrough here. A 1 hour maiden voyage after more than 50 years being off the radio. I finally had the chance to be on again. Oh my, truly. I've loved microphones since I was a kid, so I thought that would make a great theme for my YouTube channel. Cognitive dissonance. Something I've said in a classroom 10,000 times. It's the fundamental principle of teaching and learning, isn't it? And I looked it up not long ago, thinking, is it possible that YouTube would have that name available? And imagine the stunned surprise when I saw it was. So here is your only cognitive dissonance name channel on YouTube, in progress, the shall we say maiden voyage first vlog. And loved radio since I was a kid. Started a radio broadcasting career in the 10th grade, actually. And I've always loved microphones. So I thought, what a great theme to select as many just works of art, stunning technological achievements. When you look at microphones from 100 years ago, they are still so fascinating. And you can imagine the world 100 years ago, how people thought, wow, I'm going to speak into this and be heard on the other side of the world. So I thought it would be a nice idea to feature each microphone 1 minute each and take a tour through history. And each 5 minutes feature a U.S. money denomination. George Washington being on the $1 bill, of course. Our famed greatest American hero, truly, of all time. Thomas Jefferson said of Washington, there was not a greater horseman in all the colonies than Washington. Imagine that. Not only was he bigger than everybody else, but he was a great athlete. Powerful, awesome American. So the first subscription offer is $1 a month. It makes it egalitarian. Anyone can join and jump in. But you're going to see as we move along here every 5 minutes, the increments will increase to the ultimate challenge at the end of the hour. Will leave you stunned. You'll be talking about it later today and in the days and weeks to come. Like there's this podcaster. Look at this subscription offer he has. But I'm sure someone will choose to join at these additional offerings just for the fun of it. I tell you, I want to say how thankful I am to have met this most brilliant engineering company. Their name is Magnum Opus. How about that for a name? And one of their engineers is brilliant and is the creator of what we're seeing here. I got to direct it, but I watched her bring it to life. So the cognitive dissonance, musical tones underneath, the three dissonants that resolve into a full harmony chord repeating, spotlights in the corner. How about that for a microphone? So one of my first questions is if we could post your favorite mic. I have one. I actually own one of these microphones. I've had one for over 50 years. It's the most spectacular of them all, but it doesn't look it in this selection as we go through. Some others are so extraordinary, they're otherworldly. The brilliance of the engineering and creativity and artistic flair to the appearance of these mics are just stunning. And of course, as we watch this, you just imagine all the different personalities that utilize these mics. There it is. That's the most famous microphone in the world right there. The RCA 44 was its name. That's not the best photo imaging of it. Normally it's upside down from the way you see it there in its hanging position. But whenever you see Roosevelt, all the World War II news conferences, many movies from the pre-war and World War II era, they all have an RCA 44 in them. Look for them, you'll see them. So, the Magnum Opus Productions is, I just tell you, I've had the benefit of this incredible production from this company, and we'll talk about it more as we go along. So, how do you like this red and white blend of colors? That's an American flag, red. And the font is an American classic era style. And the next denomination. Become a Thomas Jefferson subscriber. I don't think there's any subscriptions to any YouTubers with a value of $1 or $2 American dollars. And it's just to show your encouragement and that you get a kick out of seeing this happening. Tribute to the era of the greatest generation, the microphones they used in all of their early history of radio. Of course, this podcast is politics and history, and trying to ask questions that I certainly haven't figured out, and I'm thinking everybody can help. That's the cognitive dissonance. It's actually the job of every teacher in every classroom to create cognitive dissonance. Not knowing something and being uncomfortable that they don't know it, but they want to know it. And that's the moment that starts that learning zeal, desire that carries us all our lives, really. Cognitive dissonance. Can you believe I own the YouTube name Cognitive Dissonance? It's too cool, too funny, too lovely, actually. After I secured the YouTube name, I turned and looked it up on a .com name, and it's available separately on a .com name for purchase. It's for sale if you're interested. They're selling that name for $45,000. So I just can't tell you how happy I was to know that the good idea to register it with YouTube was free for the thoughtful effort. What's in a name? So that would be a good idea, I thought, as we add to the chat some way or another. I spent all day just trying to, with some expert text, to get logged on, and 12 hours later finally succeeded. So it's just before midnight, the 10th of November, the birth of the U.S. Marines is today. Thank God for the U.S. Marines. So here comes Abraham Lincoln, and some impressive, just quick references to him. He's so famous that we don't think about the glory of his life very often. And notice the floating in and out and around. Those are representing tens of thousands of subscribers. That's the creative thought on that everybody's kind of circling around in the world, listening, thinking about all our cognitive dissonance. I remember as a kid, the first time I heard someone say the words President Kennedy, and I was so confused by that. I thought, why are they saying President Kennedy? And it was just a kind of a lonely little question I had for some time, because I thought the word president just went with Eisenhower. When you said president, you would normally say Eisenhower afterward. So I must have heard it a lot as a kid growing up. But that's my first recollection of cognitive dissonance, if I were to be asked. So I thought that would make a good post. Just a one-line, humorous posting to add to the fun, to enter your first recollection of cognitive dissonance that just didn't seem to make sense. You know, as a kid, I remember every soft drink was a Coke. So if it was an orange drink or a grape drink of whatever variety, it would always be an orange Coke or grape Coke. And then, of course, there was the Coca-Cola. But talk about clueless. I wanted to mention before we get too far from the introduction, when you get a moment to scroll back again to the first minute of the enormous electricity that happens during that first minute. That's cognitive dissonance at a microscopic level. What's happening when we experience cognitive dissonance. And the brilliant creator of that segment, that video segment, is the creator of this channel, this production work, the Magnum Opus Productions. And I asked if that name be listed at the very end of the hour, in case you'd like to contact this most brilliant YouTube producer. I had no idea it was this much work, I'll tell you. When I started this project back in June, late May, early June, I thought this would take 3 days, maybe. And it turned into 5 months of editing and rethinking and reproducing and revisiting. And the idea came along, developed about a subscription option to highlight the history of our country through those who are honored on each of our denomination, U.S. currency denominations. There's 11 of them. And one coming up here real shortly, I want to really focus in on because of current events that are going on. But Alexander Hamilton, I just wanted to say, George Washington said of Alexander Hamilton, there wasn't a finer person of character than him. You know, he's the one that's murdered by, you know who, his rival for the presidency. By the way, that's the most tied election in U.S. history. Never be won more with such dissension than that one. They had 30 some odd tied votes in the Electoral College for the presidency. And it was Hamilton that shifts over his support to Jefferson. And Aaron Burr was the most vicious temper and vows to get back at him, which she does in this duel that we all know about. And the understanding was in a duel, you would, among men of such stature, that you would make the challenge to show your point of view, but never fire toward each other. It would be up in the air just to show the seriousness of the offense. But Aaron Burr committed a hideous crime that day, which cost him his place in history and infamy that will live forever, ending the life of Alexander Hamilton. I see these mics, and I've always imagined all through the years all the different characters who were involved in their use. Some of the highest level of entertainers and historians and politicians and choirs, and they are absolute works of art. So there's the first minute of the cognitive dissonance, the fiery electricity of thought that's portrayed, that I hope everybody gets a kick out of seeing. I've never seen anything like it, and it's the kind of unique characteristic that this engineering company, Magnum Opus, provides. I'm not paid for promoting, but I've never met a more brilliant technician for producing a YouTube channel. If you're ready to jump in with everybody, it's the most fun it seems like everybody has is starting a YouTube channel. Oh, of course, Andrew Jackson. Oh my. So if you're starting to feel the intensity of a $20 monthly subscription, we're starting to arrive with the serious folks here. Remember Andrew Jackson. Here's this claim to the reason America is still succeeding from early on, because the British not only try to wipe us out during the American Revolutionary War for years, but they come back 25 years later again. That's when they burn the White House and attempt to burn our national archives. Now they'll say it's because we attacked over the border at the Canadian capital at the time, which was named York, which is now Toronto. But the destruction of our capital was devastating. And not only did they have the intention of destroying the White House, but all of our historic documents In fact, they set our National Archives on fire. And one of the least reported historical stunning events of history that so few people seem to know about is, and you can do the research on the event, but there was, as this fire was in progress in Washington, the White House is burned, but as they attempt to burn the archives and the rest of our cherished historical documents, a tornado blows in from just with unimaginable intensity through Washington, D.C., and not only puts out the fire, but blew the entire ranks of the British forces and cannon and their entire organized battalion. Their intention was to move on to Baltimore and burn it. But because of this hurricane, they were thwarted. Now that, to me, is the most incredible story of to be told, one of the many of American history, and I don't hear it discussed very often, so maybe you'll share that with more folks. But so that's the reason we end up having our national anthem, because it's 2 weeks later that they returned to Fort McHenry to burn it there, to finish the job they were going to do after they burned the Capitol and the White House a few weeks prior. But that's where, again, God saved America and thwarted that attack in numerous ways. You can just read the incredible debacle that occurred unexpectedly that caused that defeat of the British that was really the turning point of our history in so many respects. And our national anthem was born from that event. You know the account. The doctor who had defended a fellow in allegedly some bar setting, but he was a highly regarded physician, and the British had arrested him and were going to take him back to England, and they were devastated that they would have taken away their most valued physician. Which I'll come back to in a moment. Because here is Ulysses Grant, and you know, there is each of the books of the Bible that are the most important books to read in the world, and then anything Mark Twain wrote. And he becomes the biographer for Ulysses Grant. So this appeal to save the doctor that has been taken captive by the British offshore in one of those battleships that's bombing Fort McHenry there where we get our national anthem. And they're wanting to send someone out to plead that they not take their good doctor. So it's the humble composer of our national anthem, who they approach and say, will you please take the letter? Asking to release the good doctor. So he agrees finally, and that's why he's on board the ship offshore watching the bombing that coming in while he's on the ship. The counter fire from the U.S. coast, but he's watching the bombing of his own home fort in his own hometown. Our great composer of our national anthem. And he writes this poem about what he witnessed. And he couldn't imagine this giant flag that they had put up. They wanted to be sure the British didn't miss where they were. That's their brave in their face attitude. And he's wondering all night long as they bombed literally all night long the fort. Wondered if the flag could have possibly survived. That bombardment. And that's why he's asking this question, oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? Because he was astonished that it had survived, miraculously survived. So he writes this poem, and some people began to read it and go, oh, this is the most impressive story. We usually only hear the first verse, so I'd like to encourage you to look it up and read the whole story of the flag that he watched that night during the bombing and the historical account that he wrote. Is our flag still there? And yes. Thank God it is, it was. So some locals were so impressed with the poem, they wanted to apply it to music in some way, and so they located a song they were all familiar with, and it fit. The verses fit the music, and that's the background to our national anthem. And of course, America the Beautiful is another accepted national anthem. Right. You'd probably looked up by now. Benjamin Franklin is next. What is he thinking? $100 a month subscription? I'm thinking, why not? It's honoring Jefferson. It's something to brag about. You can tell your friends. I subscribed with the Ben Franklin subscription to Cognitive Dissonance. And they'll go, who is that? I hope they'll know soon enough. Clicking and liking. I looked up the history. They say it takes like a year or a year and a half to get to 10,000 subscribers. I'm thinking, what? So I'm hoping we'll encourage each other to be well ahead of that schedule with subscribing and sharing with others, and you see how that gets a response. You see the people responding there with those orbs. Apparently everybody liked that idea. Yeah. I know it's a brilliant artistic flair that the famed producer of Magnum Opus created, and it fits so well. Imagining all the of us gradually joining and listening. I'm looking forward to the coming podcast of presenting the endless notes I've taken over the years. I remember as a sophomore in high school having a little notepad and would be taking notes and I began to notice, I thought everyone had a notepad, but I began to realize everybody didn't have a notepad. And it's been a lifelong journey of tens of thousands of notes. So I was just looking at my prep over the last few weeks and months, organizing some electronic data of notes I've gathered over the years, and there is a 10-volume set of notes that is just really a partial glimpse into the notes over the years, but I'm going to look forward to presenting as many of them as possible. Government, political science, questions. Why are things happening this way? And is everyone else or anyone else as curious as about the cognitive dissonance as I am? I think so. Okay, here's William McKinley and why he is so current as of today's topics in the headlines. The Supreme Court case that was just presented 2 days ago. This is the 10th of November 2025 for future reference, but it was just 2 days ago that the Supreme Court heard the arguments on tariffs, and I kept waiting for them to present the incredible history of McKinley's presidency. Even as a senator, he was passing tariffs as a senator and then as president more than any other president in history until now. And do the Google search. It's real easy. McKinley's tariffs, and it will list them. And it clearly characterizes his history as the cause for the United States of America becoming the richest nation in the history of the world. through those tariffs that he initiated. So when I heard the Supreme Court case the other day being presented, I kept waiting for one of the lawyers to be talking about McKinley and all that he accomplished for America with tariffs. And no, not a word. So I have to ask if you think it would be a good idea to contact your congressman and senator and call your favorite talk show and do your research and repeat what you've come to learn about the greatness of tariffs on behalf of America. I will. I've already called my 2 U.S. senators and Friday to let their staff see if they'll look up, do a Google search on McKinley's tariffs, which characterized causing the United States of America to become the richest nation in the history of the world, with the possible exception of Solomon and Israel. And I was just remembering about Mark Twain, why he's so admirable among all historical figures. Not only his brilliance in writing, the accounts of his tours of the world, he was the most popular figure in the world. The houses of his and stadiums or settings where he appeared to speak were crowds beyond measure. And yet the most endearing quality is the love of his wife, Livy. I think I have this correct. I didn't look this up, but it's something I've just remembered for years, so you guys can check this out. But he saw her picture in a locket of his business partner's brother, I think, and fell in love with her, seeing that image of her in the locket, and loved her through the rest of his life. The accounts of what he wrote in his biographies is like no other love story I've heard anyone write about, so you might enjoy reading about Mark Twain and Livy. How about that for an on-the-air microphone? Well, it'll be interesting to see how this develops over time. Late at night, 10th of November, 2025, the maiden Cognitive Dissonance broadcast. And I thought you might appreciate some credibility on your voice that you're hearing. You know, whenever I feel real self-conscious, which is more often than I might imagine, pretty frequently. So whenever I feel like I'm just completely lost in the crowd in a group or something and being run over by the rest of the thinking or something, I'll say something like, but I have 2 degrees and 4 U.S. patents, and try to get their attention. One of them, Elon Musk cited, so I get a kick out of that. I got a notice. The U.S. Patent Office has to notify when someone's citing your work and a patent that's going out in their name. And for the life of me, 3 other major aerospace companies have cited another. It's a bolt that won't vibrate loose. Yes. I know. People, I don't. That's another gift from God, truly. There's just no other explanation for it. So many people have asked, "Are you an engineer?" And I go, "No. I just wanted to stop these from vibrating loose," which is the holy grail of screws and bolts. Supposedly, there's nothing that will stop them from vibrating loose. But I have a patent on the nut and bolt that will not vibrate loose. And Elon Musk cited it in some 3 aircraft. I mean, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, GE aircraft have cited it, and I've spent months on end trying to find out, calling them, contacting them. You know, what are you using this for? I think it's on an airplane somewhere, but I can't find out. You would think that would be something that someone could figure out, but okay, here comes the next shock. Oh, I know everyone thinks that's just too extraordinary, but I've met some people in my life that would be happy to enjoy making a statement. I love cognitive dissonance so much, I'm going to get a lifetime membership. The one of the James Madison lifetime membership. I think this was my next to the most favorite microphone. Well, post the one that is your favorite. I'd love to see how ones start ranking in popularity. Just the minute mark, the mic at minute 32 or whatever. So I've succeeded in getting a couple of bills through a state legislature before, so know how inner political processes work. And one of the most fun things I think I could tell is, I love history, and I'm watching an interstate exit, new exit being created here in the county on the interstate years ago. And I knew the name of the roadway was coming out to one of our most famous native sons, Douglas MacArthur Boulevard. And I thought, well, surely they'll name that exit for Douglas MacArthur. So I called them just to see. They said, no, we have rules for that. Can't we? No, it's going to be like 12th. And I'm going, no. It's coming right out onto Douglas MacArthur Boulevard, for crying out loud. So it took 1 year. Long story short, they said, if you will get both mayors, both city councils, Chamber of Commerce, everybody to sign, we would like that out at the highway department. The head of the highway department's telling me. He asked me, was I running for office? I thought that was one of the funniest questions I've ever heard. I said, no, I just want to honor Douglas MacArthur. He's our native son. It's coming out right here. I mean, tens of thousands of people will drive by every week, and they'll wonder, is that really Douglas MacArthur? And he was born in downtown Little Rock, for crying out loud. But anyway, so thankfully it's out there. And I happened to notice, just by coincidence, the Saturday they had loaded it out on the freeway, and the freeway was closed, and it was literally sitting on the surface of the freeway. So I was able to walk out and walk up and set up a camera and have a picture standing beside it while it's out on the freeway. So that's one other polite claim to fame. And especially if you're younger listening in high school, do just the most bold, good things. You'll be amazed. Like Samuel Chase. He never imagined he'd end up on the $10,000 bill, but there is the supreme, ultimate subscription option that I hope will make it on some notary coverage somewhere, that there's a YouTuber with a $10,000 subscription option podcast, and that there will be at least one that will have the fun to do it. And then maybe my most fun conversational claim to whatever notoriety is skiing from the highest ski lift in the world, which happens to be in our glorious Rocky Mountains. And that was so long ago. But every once in a while it comes up in a conversation, and someone will ask about it, saying, "Oh, is that like?" And they'll mention some ski area, one place or another, and I'll always tell them, if you see trees, if you see any trees in the ski area, you know you're not at the top of the world skiing area in Summit County. There are no trees. The growing season is too short. And it's just like they took chainsaws and cut the line of trees. It's so amazing. So skiing from the highest ski lift in the world will change your life if you want to be brave enough to give that a whirl. From the highest ski lift, when you come off, just for about 5 seconds, I like to tell people you can see California. You can see that far, seems like. Okay, here is this brilliant podcast creator. I just am seeing her company name rolling by. I requested that she post her brilliant credentials to be reached for other YouTubers wanting to produce their own channel, something as brilliantly done as this. I mean, it is a work of art to me that I've enjoyed watching come into being. So there's the subscription options at the end, and getting ready for a concluding few moments. On the Dissonance channel. Subscribe. Thank you, everybody.